everybody? Welcome back to the show. We have gotten so many emails from parents who watch the show, ask questions, and I want to try to synthesize those questions today into a really great show to give some explanations about some things. And one of the recurring themes I'm seeing in the messages we're getting from people who've watched the past episodes is that they really didn't know and I really appreciate what I'm often say is that getting into a university is not so much, is as much being qualified, yes, but many people always found it a mystery how colleges made discern candidates from there, how they winnowed out candidates from there. And one thing people really understand now more watching the show is that in my experience working with so many students, I often tell them that it's not just being qualified for a school, it's about them seeing you as a good fit for their culture, for their school, the kind of students who they've had there before that graduate, go on and do great things. So it's a really important thing. And so I want to focus on two schools we've gotten some emails about in this regard. And then we're going to do so many segments on school profiles now since we're getting so many great questions on them. I think this is great. First school we're going to talk about, two schools we'll talk about tonight is Johns Hopkins University and Cornell University. Johns Hopkins in Maryland and Cornell University in New York. Both very good school. Cornell is an Ivy League institution, very good school. Johns Hopkins, a very good school, not quite at the Ivy level, but still a very competitive school, fantastic school, great research institution. And so the questions tonight I'm going to answer, again, taking a lot of the questions are based on my students who've gotten into these universities. What do I think the common themes were in them, the common thematic things I've seen in their profiles, what made them great fits for these schools. I'm going to focus on two majors tonight. Then we, again, do a lot of shows on future school profiles. So the first one is going to be for Johns Hopkins for pre-med, and the second one is going to be for Cornell for computer science, okay? So I'm going to, again, speak about my students who've gotten in and what I know these schools look for in their applicants, not just high scores, not just good grades, yes, but they're going to say who's going to fit into our culture, the kind of students we produce in these majors. And so I want to focus on that side for these two schools, Cornell and Johns Hopkins. So I'm going to start with Johns Hopkins. For my students who have gotten in, I've seen for pre-med. One of the parents who wrote in said, my son's in 10th grade. I really would love to see him go to Johns Hopkins for pre-med. It's his dream school. What do they look for? Great question. I want to answer that when it comes to pre-med. So Johns Hopkins is not one of the schools that has a 7 or 8 year accelerated medical program. They do have a fantastic pre-med program, biology program, and they're going to look for, besides somebody who has fantastic test scores, definitely going to be, you put yourself in great contention. You have a 1,500 plus in the SAT, 34, 35 plus in the ACT, definitely high in a student's class rank, and definitely a very good GPA with mostly A's, few B's are okay in the transcript, high GPA, very competitive GPA, definitely 4.0 with that unweighted is going to be, almost mandatory, very, very high scoring. And of course, colleges will say they do holistic looks and all this, but we're talking about the majority of students who get in, the vast majority of fit those testing metrics. But let's get to more specific. For someone who is applying to Johns Hopkins for pre-med, so the best way to explain what they're going to be looking for is they're going to be looking for somebody who, let's say they said a person wants to become a doctor, and there are two kinds of, the kind of applicant they're going to look for is someone that says, I want to be a physician, yes, but I also want to use research to advance the medical field. I want to advance the medical field. I'm interested in understanding how I can use research to learn more about the medical field, apply it to my practice, advance the field. Johns Hopkins is a very heavy research institution, okay? So students who have research, independent research, formal research with professors and research programs in the summer, those are my students who've gotten to Johns Hopkins for pre-med. They usually went to the Waxman Scholar Program at Rutgers in the summer. They did research with a professor. They did research with me as part of the college planning program on genetics or anything that relates to a social science issue. They have shown they're really interested in understanding how research can be used to help the field grow, and they have a lot of evidence of that in their profile. Now, Johns Hopkins, if someone applies to Johns Hopkins that doesn't have a lot of research experience, But Hopkins can see they have a lot of clinical experience, and they've done a lot of shadowing. They have worked in hospitals. They've shadowed, their local chiropractor, their local doctor. That's great. But Johns Hopkins, that might not be their most favorite candidate. Someone who just wants to be a clinician is great, but they definitely going to lean towards students. They could say, this person wants to become a doctor, okay? But they also, again, they've shown that they realize becoming a doctor is one part of being a physician. You can definitely be on the front lines treating patients, but they also want to be involved in and be at the forefront of leadership, being with what's often called in the field a physician scientist, okay? That's what the people they're going to look for. So those are my students who've gotten into Hopkins. Every year, I usually get 4 or 5 kids into Hopkins for pre-med. Those are the common characteristics. If someone doesn't have a lot of research in their profile, in their background, by the time they come to me, they've just done a lot of shadowing. There's other schools that favor that kind of background more than a school like Hopkins, which is going to be more heavily lean on students who've shown a track record in research. And we'll talk about those later. So I hope that explains what an applicant, for Johns Hopkins pre-med would look for. Okay, so we can take a short break. Then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Cornell and what Cornell would look for in a computer science applicant that other schools might not look for. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the show. So I want to answer some more questions now, and I want to move on to Cornell University. We're talking today's show about what school nuances of the college application process. It's not just a matter of having good grades or having good scores on your standardized tests and good recommendations and good extracurriculars. It's about being a good fit for a school's culture, and not everyone is a fit for every school's culture. And that's why it's important working with a college planner like myself, that you're able to really get a sense of what schools you are a good fit for, a better chance of applying to. You have a better chance of getting admitted to. So we're going to talk now about Cornell and computer science. Interesting question, because Cornell, people don't often associate it with computer science. They think of it more as pre-med, Ivy League school, but it has a fantastic computer science program. But they're looking for a certain kind of student who's going to apply for who's going to apply as a computer science applicant, an aspirant. They're looking to bring in certain kinds. So I want to be clear. So a school we're going to look at, like a school like Carnegie Mellon, let's say, is going to look for definitely a computer science applicant. Definitely wants to see people that have shown the ability to apply computer science to real world problems. But a school like Cornell is going to look for students that have an interdisciplinary sense of computer science. They see how computer science, how artificial intelligence can be used to solve global problems, whether that be global warming, whether that be volunteering, getting people connected. They've shown a track record of using technology to help society, to help world problems, and they've done that with an interdisciplinary sense of the world. Because if a student is very STEM focused and every extracurricular is about STEM, the STEM clubs, that's great for certain schools. But a school like Cornell, in answer to this question, is going to look for a different kind of computer science applicant. They want to see someone that is aware of social issues in society, whether that be health disparities, socioeconomic disparities, any disparities in income that cause social issues. And they want to see someone who says, I see problems in the world, and I think technology, particular software, can be used to alleviate and mitigate and solve a lot of these problems. They want to see evidence of that, not because a student says they want to do it. They see a track record, 3-4 years, a student doing these things, spending their time in clubs in school that have to do with social issues, whether they be feeding the hungry or a nonprofit, and they're integrating technology. This has been my students who've gotten to Cornell for computer science. So to give you an example, I had a student 2 years ago that got into Cornell for computer science, and he was, I can't even tell you the level of passion he had for, realizing when something happened to his grandmother, about the lack of access to people who had cancer, where for ready information, how to sort through truth and false information on the internet. He made something, an app and a website that helped people get older people that weren't that good in technology. He felt elderly people, particularly people his grandparents' age, that can get quick access to technology, and quick access to medical information, accurate information to connect with their doctor, to keep track of their chemotherapy appointments, and just the way he was so passionate about solving this issue. He had been so moved seeing his grandparents, their accent, he felt they didn't get treated fairly in the medical field. And he wasn't going to be a doctor, he wanted to be in computer science, but he was using computer science to solve a real world problem with a true passion and a true concern. And Cornell saw that, and he was admitted. And I was not surprised, because I helped him shape his essays on this. They could see this was not a student that lived in a computer science technology bubble. He clearly saw how technology, he saw a computer science major in an interdisciplinary way. He saw its connection to other fields, to the larger societal problems. And that's what Ivy League schools, for especially Cornell with computer science, are going to look for. So when this question that came in, I see this here from a parent of another 10th grader from North Jersey who asked me, Mr. Buffer, my child James are going to Cornell. He loves it there. We have family up there. They want to major in computer science. What are they going to look for? I hope this answers your question. So it's not just a passion for computer science, not just good scores, not just good grades. All those things, there's going to be thresholds you have to meet. But once you're in that group, if they can see that this student is passionate about using computer science and they understand its interdisciplinary aspects, how it's related to other fields, and they want to use that to solve real problems. That could be artificial intelligence, software, to help society, and they have a global aspect. Remember, that student who I talked about, he saw how health disparities were a big issue in society. He did research on it. He had done a paper on it about how health was not done in an equitable way in society. And to have a computer science student writing about that was very unique. That gave him a unique angle and made Cornell feel this is the kind of student we want here, and they're going to be in a liberal arts curriculum. They're going to be well-rounded. This is the kind of computer scientists we want to build here. We want to graduate, and we want to go on and do great things in the world. Two great questions today. I really love these questions about Johns Hopkins and Cornell school profiles. Because of all the demand, we're going to do more school profiles on these two schools. And I really hope these were helpful to all of you listening today. Thank you for all the messages we're getting about these, about the show and how much they're helping you. And I hope everybody has a fantastic day. Thank you for tuning in.